welcome to another edition of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs, one digital footprint at a time. My new best friend, the accidental entrepreneur. Now that's something that I just got from you right now. Bart Walker.
It's true. I am an accidental entrepreneur.
We're talking about the name of your outfit.
Correct.
And the marketing name, shall we say, is JACKGRACE USA.
Correct.
And
named after my two children's middle names. We had to come up with something that would be appealing to the public.
And it's a cool name. It's actually, it's not, you're fortunate that your kids' name were not named, I don't know, Celeste and, Apple maybe.
Well, I named them, so hopefully they were good names.
Yeah, but they're perfect names, man.
I appreciate it.
You are, and you call yourself the accidental entrepreneur, and you have probably one of the most incredible products, revolutionary products that have come out in the market. Now, you better explain it, because I'm sure you have your 1 minute
Sure.
pitch polished.
I can, I don't have it polished. No, it's still very early, and I have to be careful about getting into the specifics of how it's achieved. But essentially, in 2005, I recall painting shoes in different colors. I would go to the office and I would just be really tired of, the brown, the black, the generic shoes that everybody has. And so
when you say you were going to the office, you were a banker.
I was at that time I was a mortgage lender.
A mortgage lender, all right.
Correct.
All right.
And so, I'd get teased a little bit. They'd say, "Where did you get those shoes?" Well, I made the shoes. And that was back in 2005.
Nobody makes their own shoes, but you were making your own shoes.
I was customizing my own shoes, right? And I've always had a flair for, bold colors and kind of stylistically going outside of the box. And so I felt that there was some demand, and I think some people caught attention to it, and I actually put together a PowerPoint presentation and sent it off to a big company. And a few years later, I was flipping through GQ magazine, and there was my idea that I had submitted to them. And my wife—
No way!
My wife, that was in 2007, I got married, and my wife and I would go around to all the malls, and we would see my concept.
This was your concept. This is your idea that you saw on GQ magazine.
This was a previous concept that didn't have any intellectual property associated with it, but it's related. And so my wife at that time sort of made me commit that the next good idea I had, I wouldn't just email it off. So fast forward to 2015.
Let me just append something that you said. The fact that you were in business as a mortgage banker, as a mortgage broker, didn't really qualify you as an entrepreneur.
No. Far from it.
Far from it, right? Because now you were thinking very naively, should we say, I'm going to email this great concept to this big company so that they can call me and we can launch this product. Was that the expectation?
No, the expectation I think was I had actually sat down with a friend of mine and we had mapped out how we would go about this, and we realized how much money it would take, and we were at that time in our mid to early 20s and really just didn't have the wherewithal to launch a brand, didn't have the business savvy or any money to do it, and it wasn't a patentable item. So I thought, well, it's better that I get the product out there for consumers. I saw that there was a demand for it, so I thought, well, might as well let somebody else, as long as somebody makes the product and I can purchase it, that's great.
That was your ambition then. So fast forward. So now what happens?
So in 2015, June 17th of 2015 was the day. I had left mortgage banking, got into commercial real estate lending, and during that time I was on a site inspection. We would go and look at commercial buildings, make sure that they were a lendable property, and I had some buddies I went to high school with that had a flourishing business nearby the property that I went to go inspect. So I went in to chat with them, and I saw this sort of mini empire, if you will, that they had built. And these are guys that I had known, one in particular, for 25 years, since junior high. And I thought to myself, I'm probably never going to get something like this working at the bank. Nothing wrong with the bank. I was happy. So that was the moment, and it wasn't really a succinct plan to start a business, but I thought, what ideas do I have that could provide this type of lifestyle, or not necessarily lifestyle, but me to do something I'm passionate about.
Not only that you're passionate about, but that provides some independence, and that will, if you will, have the world utilizing something that you created.
Correct. Just allow me to sort of guide my efforts into something that I was more passionate about and more fulfilling. And so that was the day that I actually sat across the table from a friend and I said, I have an idea. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but I'll come back to you in a few months. And so that night,
Let me get the intellectual property first. And then
right. So that night I went home and I sketched it out on a napkin in my kitchen. And the next morning I went and I grabbed a shoe out of the garage, an old shoe out of the garage. I've always liked shoes, so I have a vast collection to select from. So I went and I grabbed an old shoe and I brought it in the house. I started cutting it up, and one thing led to another, and then I took it to a cobbler, a very talented young man named Randy Lucas, who helped me create the first prototype. And there's a lot more to the story, but that was the genesis of it.
it is interesting, and I know because of you are going through several patent issues right now. Well, not issues, but you're just waiting for the green light from attorneys and people and everybody else.
Yeah, it's a good problem. At first, we were only going after a domestic patent, and because of the excitement behind the product, now we're putting all the fail-safes in place to protect us internationally. So
let me say this without giving away the farm, because I've seen the product, and it will revolutionize the way people wear their shoes. It's not.
So.
Let me tell you something. I mean, it's really a very simple idea conceptually, and then you wonder, well, why didn't I think about that, right? Why didn't I think about that product?
I was developing a frequently asked questions aspect of a website that's currently under production.
Right.
And the second bullet point that I thought of is, why hasn't anybody else thought of this before? And my response was, I'm not sure. I don't know.
When you come back, because we're going to have to do kind of a second part to this interview, when you come back, when you're all cleared and you have the product in your hand, we're going to be able to show it. Right?
Absolutely.
Right now, suffice it to say is that, and we're going to keep that intrigue for everybody right now, but suffice it to say, are you specializing only on, say, the golf industry right now, or are you doing the shoe on any other industry in particular? Or
Great question. As it stands right now, my sole focus is on the golf market, and that's for a variety of reasons. One, I live in Phoenix, so that's a great place to do it. There's a demand for the product in that space, and
we live in a city that has the most golf courses per capita.
Correct. Yeah, it's a great place to do it, and it's a great place to sort of, having never run a shoe company before, for me to sort of learn the shoe industry, the footwear industry is this big, and you have to select something to start with. And as a golfer, I decided, hey, why don't I start with something that I like? I live in Phoenix, this makes sense. Let's figure it out in the golf space, and then we'll branch out beyond that. And I do currently have a prototype in a men's casual shoe, women's, children's. All of those are potential opportunities in the future. But for the next 12 to 24 months, I'll be narrowly focused on golf and honing in exactly how this all gets put together in the golf space.
Today is September the 23rd, 2016. And I say the date because when is it that we're going to be able to finally see your end product?
I am waiting. I have prototypes currently that are wearable prototypes, functioning prototypes.
And I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I've seen the prototypes, Taylor. It's out of control.
I appreciate that.
They're very handsome. It's a very handsome, very well made, very well thought of product.
Well, I appreciate that. Not bad for a banker from Phoenix with no fashion experience, right?
I think we're gonna owe this whole thing to your wife, because I think she's the one that is kind of pushing to get all this.
My wife has been an exceptional aid in this process.
So give me the date for the launch.
The launch of where I can show the product, or the launch of where we will have the product landed, because those are different questions.
When you can show the product, because I would, just
I would hope within a month I can come back and show the product. We're waiting for the green light from the attorneys, wrapping up their details. And as a matter of fact, I believe the most recent samples are in the air currently. coming to the group of, I call them my general contractors. I'm very fortunate in that I hooked up with a group out of Portland.
Yep.
Former gentlemen that worked at Nike and Adidas. One of them was, for example, he developed the very first Nike Air Max and was involved in Nike Shocks and those sort of revolutionary shoe brands. And I was fortunate in several months ago presenting my concept to them, and they were at the time maybe understandably apprehensive to get into business with a banker from Phoenix, but I think after a few phone calls and some persuasion on my behalf and the passion they could hear over the phone, they decided to work with me. And so if anybody thinks that you can start a premium golf shoe company without some technical expertise, you'd be a fool. I do have the fortunate experience of working with very, very talented, very, very well-seasoned technical builders who know exactly how this works and have the relationships to get a world-class product made.
We're going to bring you back on November, probably the third week of November. I don't remember exactly, but it's going to coincide with the anniversary of my first marriage wedding anniversary. So we're going to bring you back that day. And two, do you think it's a coincidence that his last name is Walker? Walker? There's got to be some kind of cosmical connection.
A lot of people said I should name the shoes something Walker, and to me it sounded orthopedic. So
I think you got the best name
it.
in the world, man. Jack Grace USA.
Thank you very much.
You're my new best friend, bro.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
With that, we're out.